Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's show with SportsbookReview.com. I'm your host, Lee Martin, joined today with the same guys that I love, SBR's UFC expert, David Manyun, and MMA Mania's lead host, Matt Ryan. And we have a wonderful card this weekend. We have UFC 254 with Khabib and Justin Gaethje, so I'm pumped, and it is a great card. But before I get ahead of myself and before I get into any UFC talk, like always, go ahead, give us a like and subscribe to our channel. That way you never miss a show. Now, let's get to it. I hope you guys are having a wonderful week so far. And before we get into this upcoming weekend, like always, let's just jump back a bit to this past weekend and go over what happened in the main card. We had UFC Fight Night with Brian Ortega versus the Korean Zombie. And honestly, I was a tad bit disappointed, all right? But Dave, I'm going to start off with you and see how your weekend went.
It was a successful one in terms of betting. I profited, punch and parlay, cashed again. I mean, that thing has just not stopped cashing this year. So if you're going to tell me on anything, then head to SBR and go to the picks page and look for the punch and parlay, because it seems quite unbeatable of recent. But yeah, as you mentioned, there was a bit of disappointment, but you know, T-City 2.0, and nobody expected Brian Ortega to come out and look that good in his striking offense. Nobody expected it. In fact, I sat here last week and I discussed how Max Holloway was teaching Brian Ortega a few little moves during their fight. And the funny thing is, the way that Ortega dropped his hands in that Max Holloway fight, if you go back and watch that Korean Zombie fight, he does not drop his hands, not even 50% as much as he did. So through the 2-year layoff that Brian Ortega took off and clearly leveled up his skill set, I think he also took a little something from that Max Holloway fight and learned to cover his face and not get hit. And he did a great job. Super impressive. Won every round, I believe. And I lost that prediction, but the prediction that made me happy the most was obviously the co-main event. I sat here last week and I told people that Caitlin Chikagian it's just not on the same level as Jess. And yeah, it played out pretty much exactly how I expected, other than she knocked her out in the first round. Boy. But yeah, overall it was a great card, profiting night. And if I'm going to be completely honest, through Ortega, Korean Zombie, through Marias and Sandhagen, even Home Aldana, go back to 253. All I've been waiting for the past month, 2 months, is the fight that we have coming this weekend, and that's Khabib and Justin Gaethje.
All right. Well, how about you, Matt? How did your weekend go?
Well, just a shout out to Teofimo Lopez's performance against Vasily Lomachenko. I don't know if you guys watched that fight, but that was a masterclass by Lopez. But yeah, Ortega was a serious man. He turned into the Coen Brothers movie he needed to be. He wasn't raising Arizona anymore. He wasn't a child growing into something amidst circumstances that none of us could grow into. The bar was set so high for Ortega heading into that Holloway fight, that now that he's at a set level and he walked through the Korean Zombie. I don't have a hat to eat this week. I ate my hat last week, but it was a great effort by Ortega, a great fight, and no knock on the Korean Zombie. I don't know why he approached the fight the way he did. He fought a very Korean Zombie fight, but there were no openings for him to really set up and dominate against Ortega, and that was great strategy by his team and a great implementation of their game plan. So I don't know what that division is going to look like heading into 2021, but Ortega, he might get that rematch with Holloway, and he might get the title shot. Well, he's getting the title shot, but I think he should fight Holloway first.
No, definitely. All right. Well, now that we got that out of the way, let's jump into this upcoming weekend, because I know we're all super pumped for this card. It's going to be this Saturday, October 24th, and we are at Yas Island. It's for UFC 254, Khabib versus Justin Gaethje. Let's start off with the first fight. I'm all over the place. We have light heavyweight Magomed Ankalaev versus Cutelaba. Via Bet Online, Ankalaev is -310 and Cutelaba is +260. Matt, I'm going to start with you today. If you can give us your breakdown and pick for that fight.
Well, this fight's a rematch. Last time these two fought, Ankalaev pieced up Cutelaba in the first round. Cutelaba's 4-4 in his last 8, has not made it to a third round fight in 4 years. And the last guy he went to the third round against was Jared Cannonier, and Jared Cannonier pieced him up. Every step-up fight that Cutelaba's had, whether it's Cannonier, Glover Teixeira, or you can even consider this Ankalaev fight a step-up fight in terms of competition, has not really ended well for Cutelaba. But that third round streak, I think it's going to continue, but I think Ankalaev's going to get the knockout. Ankalaev's on a 4-fight winning streak, only losing once in his career, which was his UFC debut against Paul Craig. And he's got 9 knockouts or 6 decision victories. I don't think we're going to see a decision in this fight. I don't think Ankalaev's going to pull off a submission. I'm looking at Ankalaev getting the knockout, but this time I think Cutelaba is going to survive until the second round.
All right. Well, how about you, Dave? Do you agree with Matt, or do you have a different take on this fight?
I mean, if you're a regular viewer of this show, you're already going to know our takes. How many times have we broke this fight down? Yeah. I mean, is this the third or fourth?
57th, I think.
Yeah, it's a bit beyond now. I mean, it's Ankalaev's fight. We've had a preview of these two, as Matt mentioned. It's a rematch. There was a little drama involved, but with this story, it's already been written. And it's a precision southpaw striker versus a power puncher in Cutelaba. We've got a guy in Ankalaev who's a 2-time world and Russian champion as an amateur. He was hyped up before his UFC debut. He's maintained that said hype. And I think this is his fight to lose, really. Instinctive countering over calculated. Yeah, I have to take the the calculated, because Cutelaba's instinctive winging crazy wild shots are not going to fare well against the precision striker that Ankalaev is. He's absolutely incredible striker, in my opinion. Now, before his striking days, he wrestled Greco-Roman at the Dagestani University, went on to fight in Sambo. He collected a Master of Sport in that title as well. So if somehow, he loses this confidence in the stand-up, which I doubt it, he's got the stronger grappling background to fall on. I think he was clearly taking over the striking in that small sample that we have from the first fight, and I don't see anything changing this time around. It's all Ankalaev for me, and that the knockout over Limbungala, that front kick, I can see something like that happening again. A real impressive knockout coming. He's got 75% implied probability at the bookmakers, and to be fair, that's I'm okay with that. I really am. I'm not usually okay with these high juice numbers on guys who don't have a huge amount of experience in the UFC. But it's currently sat, you can get him at different prices. I think minus 295 is one of the best, and minus 350 is one of the worst. But I'll even that out at minus 300. That comes back 75% implied probability. As I said, I'd give him the striking, grappling, and octagon control, and then I'd throw that extra 25% to Cutelaba, because he is the aggressor in this fight, and that's what I will give to Cutelaba. He does have an aggression advantage, but that's about it. So yeah, for me it's Ankalaev, and more than likely he might make an appearance in the punch and parlay this week, but I haven't quite decided that yet. But yeah, it's all Ankalaev for me. Take the Russian.
All right, well, stay tuned to Dave's Twitter to see if he includes it in his punching parlay for the week. But if you guys do want to get in on this fight, again, via BetOnline, Ankalaev is minus 310 and Cutelaba is plus 260. Let's move on to the next fight. We have women's flyweight Lauren Murphy and Liliya Shakirova. Shakirova is plus 195 and Murphy is minus 230. Dave, I'm going to continue with you if you can give us your breakdown and pick for this fight.
Yeah, Liliya Shakirova. She is making a short notice attempt here. 9 days. It's not a long time. But I will give her this. She has been waiting, okay? She has been ready for somebody to sign, however it be UFC, Bellator. And, look, these late notice fights, we mention it week in, week out, keeps happening because of the pandemic situation. It's going to continue. I think she might be ready for the UFC. She primarily fought on the Russian and Chinese MMA scene. Uzbekistan, former GFC champion. She trains at Booker Gym, which is a great gym, and she's also a freestyle national wrestling champion. She's the first ranked in Russia and the fourth ranked in China. The problem is it's hard to gauge a skill level because she hasn't fought anyone of a real good caliber. And her sole loss comes against a girl in Julia Barasifa, who was coming off a 4-fight losing streak. So it is hard to look at her wins and say, yeah, she's great, she's going to do well in the UFC. I think she can compete at this level when we don't really have any tape or evidence of that thus far. Her last win was in 2019 against a girl who was 1-1. Now, that girl who was 1-1 is now 1-3. And she's fighting a veteran, Lauren Murphy, this week. Might be a bit too much too soon, in my opinion. She does love the overhand right. She's comfortable wrestling. I expect Murphy to anticipate all these techniques. As her fights are quite easy to read, the few that we can see online. She doesn't really switch it up all that much. She does what she's good at. She sticks to what she's good at. But I think I'm going to have to side with the OG Lauren Murphy in this one. She's on a good win streak at the highest level of this game. And has accomplished 2 of her previous 3 wins against strong grapplers, which her opponent this weekend is. Now, the odds are steep. Neither girl's ever been finished. Murphy does not have the most punishing offense. So the decision prop does sound tempting to me if you're desperate to bet this fight. But this women's division is a bit up in the air at the moment. Anything can happen, especially with the lack of activity and knowledge from the younger fighter in Liliya. Ultimately, Murphy's pressure should be too much. I'm not super confident, as you can probably tell in the hesitation in my voice. Actually, as I'm sitting here thinking about it, Lauren Murphy's head movement is terrible, and Liliya has a nasty overhand right. I'm not betting this fight. I will side with Lauren Murphy. I think that she does, everything does favour her in this fight. But it's too risky for me to bet, especially at these odds. So I will side with Murphy. But in terms of betting, I mean, I won't be mad if you want to put a little flyer on Liliya this weekend, because she has a good chance. I didn't think about it previous to this video, but Lauren Murphy's head movement, go watch her fight. She doesn't move her head, and you can see this at the end of a lot of her fights as well. She comes out bloody, beat up, and bruised. So yeah, side with Murphy, but yeah, I am hesitant, especially on betting it.
All right, well, how about you, Matt? Do you agree with Dave? And also, Shakirova has lost only once by decision. So do you think this fight will go the distance or stay within the distance? And if it does go the distance, do you think she has a chance of winning by decision?
Well, Lee, you just spoiled my fun fact of the week, brought to you by my debilitating depression. Let's take a look at the fun fact of the week. You're right, she's only lost by decision, but here's a fun fact. She's only had 2 fights of her 9 professional fights, so just under a third of her pro fights have gone to a decision. Lauren Murphy, every fight she's had in the UFC has gone to the 3rd round. And when you look at the fight that Shakirova is getting this fight on 9 days' notice and needing to condition for Fight Island, which is going to be a cavalcade of fun for someone who's dealing with the lights, the heat, I don't know if there's going to be a significant time change, but this card's taking place at 2:30 in the afternoon U.S. time, so who the hell even knows what that effect is going to be. But conditioning is going to be a problem for someone who's trying to make weight on 9 days' notice, flying into the desert, no matter how well air-conditioned it is, and going up against someone who all they do is survive for 15 minutes. I think that this is a stay-away fight for me. I agree with Dave on that. I agree that Lauren Murphy's going to win this fight. If she does just keep, getting rock'em sock'em robots, there's an opportunity. But the deeper this fight goes, the more desperate Shakirova is going to be, and she's going to try to shoot the moon. But it's going to be predicated on if Murphy can stay, keep the party afloat. And I think Murphy's going to be able to stay afloat, stay consistent, and grind Shakirova. She's just got to make sure Shakirova dumps enough energy to skate by with a decision win.
All right, well, there you guys have it. If you do want to get in on this fight, again, via Bet Online, Shakirova is plus 195 and Murphy is minus 230. Let's move on to the next fight. We have middleweight Jacob Malkoun versus Phil Hawes. Via Bet Online, Hawes is minus 240 and Malkoun is plus 205. Matt, I'm going to continue with you. If you can give us your breakdown and pick for this fight.
All right, so this is the weirdest main card fight that is in the top 4 of our card that I think I've dealt with since we started on this show. We've got 2 fighters making their UFC debut. We've seen Phil Hawes before on Dana White's Contender Series, but now both of these guys are debuting on the main card in a somewhat featured fight, and both of these guys have never fought in the UFC proper before. This is a weird matchmaking or flow decision. I don't know if this is the popcorn match or something like that, to take a parlance from boxing and wrestling. But I'm going to go with Phil Hawes here. He's got 4 straight stoppage wins. His last loss was on the Contender Series in 2017 after eating a head kick. He's fought on the season 23 of The Ultimate Fighter, and he's competed in the World Series of Fighting, so he's fought in major atmospheres before. Malkoun only has 4 pro fights. So you got to, as the band said, you get a bit of that stage fright. I don't know if Malkoun's going to care, but when you're looking at experience here and you're looking at major level experience, fighting high caliber professional athletes, Hawes has the advantage. This is a stay away fight for me because I don't have enough intel on either fighter. But if you're looking at something for a parlay, Hawes by decision may be the best option, or Hawes by stoppage. As I said, 4 straight stoppage wins, including his Contender Series win back in September. But Dave, I'll acquiesce to you. What are your thoughts?
Yeah,
yes. How about you, Dave?
One thing I will say about this fight is if there's any handicappers out there trying to claim that they have a strong hold on this fight, they know who's going to tell them to ask for your money back if it's a tout, and find the next person to take your advice from. Because whilst I was researching this, the biggest struggle that I came across was finding footage on these fighters, especially Phil Hawes. I mean, his opponents only had 4 professional fights, but what's he had, like 10 fights, and I could only find tape.
Yep.
Recent tape on his Dana White Contender Series fight, which he won, in the first round by knockout, so not much to go off. And then the other 2 fights were his only 2 losses. So it's been hard for me to gauge anything on Phil Hawes. And in terms of this fight being so high up on the card, this must be a favour for Bobby Knuckles, because, we like fun facts around here. He is I wouldn't say coach of Bobby Knuckles, but he trains with Knuckles, and he is a coach at that gym. He's a jiu-jitsu gym, and he's a jiu-jitsu coach, and he is a striking coach. But I mean, there's not much else to say. It's really tough. The older fighter in Hawes is 31, so he's going to hold the experience. I've got another fun fact, actually. Phil Hawes got into the UFC with $200 in his pocket and a knock on the door of Jackson Wink MMA in Albuquerque. They accepted him in, I think, 4 or 5 years ago. Luckily enough for him, it worked out for him. He's now fighting in the UFC. I know that he switched to Sanford MMA as well. So not only does he train at Jackson Wink with the likes of John Jones, etc., he's also at Sanford with Usman gang. Like, come on. I mean, if you're rotating between them 2 gyms, you're surrounded by, 2 of the greatest groups in martial arts today. What do we know about Phil? Not much from his fight tape. He's got heavy hands, violent KO power. I know he has some wrestling credentials from back in college. As mentioned, he's trained with the likes of Jones, Carlos Condit in Albuquerque, Usman, Burns, Rosenstrike in Florida. He's been around some of the best grapplers and strikers in the sport. He's making his debut. A little favour for Rob Whittaker, maybe put my boy on the card underneath. That's the only reason why I can see this fight taking place so high up on an amazing pay-per-view. But yeah, as mentioned, he's making his debut, and it's another, it's a rough situation to put us in terms of gambling, in terms of putting our hard-earned money behind someone. We need the research, we need the evidence, we need stuff, and we just don't have it on this fight. 4-0, very small record. I know he has a 3-0 boxing record as well, so between boxing and MMA, Jacob is undefeated. Mentioned before, he's a BJJ instructor at Gracie's Jiu-Jitsu in Smeaton Grange in Australia. Just can't give an accurate reading on him with 4 fights, and can't give an accurate reading on Hawes because there's no fight tape out there. Hawes has the 10-fight experience, some scary aggression, while Jacob looks great on the feet too. And, you know, I'm just not sure how this fight's going to play out. The odds on Hawes right now, minus 260, I think would be fair, just because some of the things we mentioned, you know, he's only had 4 fights. He hasn't competed in the UFC. We don't really know all that much about him. So it's, yeah, I mean, maybe that 260 is justified, but I don't know. I don't even know how the bookmakers sat down and said, right, we're going to come up with this line now. Yeah, let's give Hawes minus 200 or whatever he opened at. Let's give, yeah, I just don't know how they've came to their conclusion. It's a stay away fight in terms of betting. If you put a gun to my head and say, Dave, you need to bet this now, I'm probably going to take the under. Why? Because Phil Hawes has never met the judges. So that's the best I can give you on this fight. I do apologise. There's just nothing out there. I think the best thing you can take away from what I've said and what Matt said is stay away from betting this fight.
I feel like a lot of people have mixed feelings in this fight. I'm looking at the chat right now. Dan Moss said Malkoun is a good dog or pass. Hawes' cardio is a concern. And then we have a fight fan that says no. Hawes knocks out halfway into round 1. So no one really knows what to expect. So if you want the dog piece or a parlay, just go for it. Again, via BetOnline, I'll read the odds for you. Hawes is minus 240 and Malkoun is plus 205. So dog or parlay, up to you. But yeah, I personally I'm not touching this fight either. But let's move on to the next fight. We have heavyweight Alexander Volkov versus Walt Harris. Via BetOnline, Volkov is minus 185 and Harris is plus 160. Dave, I'm going to continue with you if you can give us your breakdown and pick for that fight.
Yeah, this is a tough one to predict, I must say. Harris is returning after that steamrolling from Overeem, Jesus. And you know what? We backed I backed Walt Harris. I gave Walt Harris as the pick. And within that was it the first minute or the first 2 minutes, I thought it was over for Alistair. I thought he was done. That cut on it, he was out. I thought it was done, and no, he survived the onslaught, got back up to absolutely, he dominated Walt Harris. I mean, the skill levels were not the same. Okay, they weren't the same, but I did have hope in Harris, and now he's coming back to fight a guy who's also coming off the back of a loss in Alexander Volkov. Alexander Volkov's loss to Curtis Blades is probably more significant. I feel like Curtis Blades right now versus Overeem right now, it's going to be Blades every single time. Blades, if we take away Francis Ngannou, Curtis Blades is probably the take away Stipe the champ and Ngannou. Curtis Blades is the best in that division. Curtis Blades is so impressive. So it's hard to look at Volkov and say, oh, look at that, you got the crap being out, you suck. No, that's not how it is. But this fight, we've got the main thing that I take on this, 2 of the biggest heavyweights. We've got 6'5" versus 6'7". Jesus. Yeah. Now look, Walt Harris starts fast with loads of aggression and finishes a lot of guys early. He's got heavy hands and he has got that one-punch KO power. But the problem with Harris is, if that doesn't work, he's gonna come into problems. He's going to come into problems, as we've seen against Overeem. That quick onslaught nearly worked, not quite, and then skill just overtook that fight. And I think we're going to see the same here, unfortunately. We've got a striker versus striker, and I really do like Walt Harris. But that reach advantage that Volkov's going to hold, excuse me, I think is really going to hurt. Harris he's not going to be able to clinch because Volkov, I mean, in that area is great, knees, elbows, and Harris's striking strengths, like his Russian flurries and his boxing, I think he's going to be disabled from Volkov's style of fighting, and I think that's what it's going to be. Volkov, as mentioned, he's got that length, and he's got a beautiful push kick, and I think he's just a higher level striker. With that said, he is up against, a southpaw in Harris, which brings a different tangible to the fight. But I'm just not sure where Harris is head at, and the line does seem fair. When I look at advantages in this fight, striking, Volkov, grappling, Volkov, I mean, power advantage, I'll give to Harris. But other than that, I think this is Volkov's fight to lose. Harris had that opportune moment within them first 2 minutes, I believe. I think he's a first-round killer. But as we've seen with Volkov time and time again, this guy can just fight, and he's got good cardio, he's got great striking, especially at range, and inside he's got the clinch work. And I think, it's all Volkov this weekend for me.
All right. Well, Matt, so for Walt Harris, all of his wins have come by knockout or TKO. Do you think he'll be able to knock out Volkov, or do you think this is Volkov's fight?
So, going back, I think this is Volkov's fight to lose. I will agree with Dave on that. But let's take a look at Volkov's last 3. He's had losses to Curtis Blades and Derek Lewis. And if you remember that Derek Lewis fight, that was one of the greatest fights in the history of UFC heavyweight fighting. That walk-off by Lewis with time ticking down, it was like Jordan pushing off a Byron Russell. It was perfect. That has to affect someone like Alexander Volkov, knowing you're that close to a win, and then wham! You just get done and dusted. And the only person that Volkov has defeated in his last 3 fights was Greg Hardy. And Dave, you got to agree with me that a win over Greg Hardy really doesn't mean much at this point in Volkov's career, especially when he's beaten Fabricio Verdum, Roy Nelson, and Stefan Struve.
Yeah.
And you look at Walt Harris, you look at the pain and suffering and horror he's had to deal with for what I believe the past 2 years surrounding the loss of his stepdaughter, and I believe that case is still ongoing. I'm not sure. But he has knocked out every win he's had has come by KO or TKO. He has a loss to a common opponent in Volkov and Fabricio Verdum, but Walt Harris almost knocked out Overeem, as Dave said, in the first 2 minutes of that fight. Volkov is coming off of losses to 2 of the best, and I think Volkov is going to try to match him early on or try to stuff him. If this fight heads into the 3rd round, it's Volkov's. But if this fight, the first 2 rounds, I'm leaning heavy on Walt Harris to try to make something happen. But once we get into those final 5 minutes, I feel like Volkov's going to find a way to stuff, contain, and detain Walt Harris to ensure that what happened to him against Derek Lewis never happens again.
All right. Well, if you guys want to get on this fight, again, via BetOnline, Volkov is -185 and Harris is +160. Now let's move on to the co-main. We have middleweight Robert Whittaker versus Jared Cannonier. Via BetOnline, Whittaker is -108 and Cannonier is -112. Matt, I'm going to continue with you. If you can give us your breakdown and pick for the co-main event.
To quote Jesse Spano, I'm so excited and I just can't hide it. This is going to be violent as hell, and I am here for it. I am excited to call this fight on Saturday afternoon for Combat Culture. Bobby Knuckles looking to, gain a little bit of leverage after his win over Darren Till. He's still eyeing Israel Adesanya down and wants that title shot, but Jared Cannonier, he also wants that title shot. And we look at Cannonier, 3 straight wins since dropping down to middleweight. Cannonier started his career as a heavyweight, so he went down from heavyweight to light heavyweight to middleweight, which has been his most successful weight class so far, especially since joining the UFC. All of his wins in that 3-fight stretch have come in TKOs in rounds 1 and 2. And Whittaker, Bobby Knuckles is going to want to throw. So I'm hedging towards Cannonier, but Whittaker's the smarter fighter. He's the more tenured fighter. He's the former world champion. The man went 5 years without a loss and went 9-0 in between those losses to Stephen Thompson and Israel Adesanya. He's one of the most dominant champions of the past decade. But I'm going to go with Cannonier here just because I think that he's got more to prove. And I think Whittaker, over his past couple of losses, has really, I think some of that edge may be gone. But beating Darren Till is no easy feat. But I think Cannonier's skill set is more applicable to defeat Whittaker than Darren Till's was. Dave, I don't know if you agree with me or not, but that's where I'm looking at it.
Yeah, what's your take on that, Dave? Do you agree with Matt?
God, this fight. This is really hard, guys. Like, it really is. You got a former light heavyweight in Cannonier now, trying to drop these bombs on the middleweights, and he's had 3 fights at middleweight and dropped bombs on every single one of them. So, yeah, it's tough. It's tough to fade him, but when we look at his opponents, David Branch is a good grappler. Meh, knocked him out. Anderson Silva used to be one of the greats of all time. Not even close to how he used to be. So, meh. Jack Hermansson, bit of a weird guy. He's been on some like odd win streak. But the way Cannonier put him out was it was scary. Cannonier is a scary dude. And then you look at his opponent, Rob Whittaker, another scary dude. We've got a main event caliber fight for our co-main event. Whittaker coming off, obviously, the big win over Darren Till, which really pissed me off. Cannonier coming off a trio of wins against some great guys, which you just mentioned. But do not be mistaken here. This will be the toughest fight of Jerry Cannonier's career. The toughest fight he's ever had. His fight IQ is really going to have to shine in this one if his power doesn't come through early. The worry I have for Bobby here is the damage that is taken through the Adesanya knockout and the strikes that Till landed on him. Now, I know he beat Till, but Till connected with some vicious strikes. But please go back and watch and see how that was a closer fight than how people spoke about that fight.
And he fought Yoel Romero twice.
Exactly. This is what I mean. And you look at Bobby Knuckles, and you look at the people he's fought, and, they haven't all been, first round KOs and quick finishes. Cannonier's fresh right now. The guy's just dropping people. He's not taking much damage. And that's what worries me about Bobby is his head. Is his body completely healthy and ready to take on a monster in Jared Cannonier? So, I'm looking at Cannonier. I'm looking for weak points. I have to go back to his light heavyweight fights. And the Dom Reyes is a great fight to look at. Or the Jan Blachowicz fight. It's the speed and the striking level. It was just a tad higher for them two fighters. And I do think Bobby Knuckles can do the same. I have to side with the blueprint of Whittaker in this fight. I'm going to take the game plan and the smart fighter over the power and aggression of Cannonier, even though that hasn't fared well for people since COVID and the smaller cage. There's been so many knockouts and vicious, brutal finishes. It does make me worry. But the footwork of Robbie's special. It is special. His movements are key in setting up his strikes. Every little piece of footwork, every shift in movement he does. He loves to cut the cage. He leaves his opponents feeling like they're trapped in a room, that he closes the cage off that good, leaves them nowhere to go, but face them strikes. A beautiful hook kick and then a feint hook with that knockout kick. I just loved that combo. We saw it against Brunson, Jacare. He tried it with Till, didn't work. Till's striking IQ, he was ready for that. I'm not sure if Cannonier is, though. I don't know. I mean, if I can read it and I can see it, I'm sure Cannonier and his coaches have been through it. But, that the lead hook, the left lead hook of Rob is probably one of his main weapons. And he's going to have to show it early and often with Cannonier. He needs to keep Cannonier at bay as early as possible to avoid, the knockout power, which is always more prominent in the early rounds. I think similar to how Volkov needs to weather Walt Harris. I can't believe I'm saying that, Bobby Knuckles needs to weather some, because he's an incredible striker himself, but he does. He has to weather the bigger dude here. And I think if he can do that, he can take this fight on the judges' scorecards for sure. But with these two being so incredible, and holding so much power in their strikes, I wouldn't be betting that prop, that's for sure, because this can end very quick. But with all of that said, I'm going to have to side with Bobby Knuckles. Rob Whittaker for the win by decision is my prediction.
All right. Well, I'm looking in the chats, and I feel like everyone is just against Whittaker. Dan Moss says, I think Whittaker is going to get dusted. Sad for me to see. He keeps rushing in like a goose. He'll get stung.
And now I'm just imagining Robert Whittaker as a goose.
Well, look, everyone has opinions. That's the thing. That's the great thing about this, especially in these close fights. I'm actually surprised so many people are faded. I thought it would be a bit 50-50, but I mean, I guess not. I haven't looked at any public polls or who's taking who. But from our chat, everyone's on Bobby Knuckles. Everyone's on Cannonier. Go bet that. because look, we've got even money right now.
I see and this is no offense to the chat, but it's the "what have you done for me lately" thing. There was a lot of anti-Darren Till sentiment in there. I didn't want to bring it up because I didn't want to get Dave pissed off. It's Whittaker was riding such a high, and you see this with a lot of ex-champions. When they take that loss, when they lose the belt, they immediately get taken down a peg or two, and it kind of systemically gets cut down. And we see that in boxing all the time. We saw that with Anthony Joshua just about a year ago when he lost to Andy Ruiz at the Garden. Everyone was like, what the hell's happening here? And then, like, everybody was like, is Anthony Joshua done? And then, no, we clearly saw he was not done. And then he beat Andy Ruiz about the face, neck, and chest for about 12 rounds.
Yeah,
so
not everyone is Khabib. Like, it's not.
Yeah.
Losses can actually help fighters more than they realise a lot of the time. And look, Whittaker come off that loss, and what did he do? He went and beat, a main contender in Darren Till. So I don't think Whittaker's done. And you know what? He could come out and look even better than he ever has done. We haven't had that happen. We haven't had this proof happen yet. We need more fights. We need to see more. So but forget betting. Forget who cares who's gonna win. The fight itself is incredible, and entertainment galore. So I cannot wait. It's impossible that this fight will be boring. I can guarantee that.
Hell no.
No. All right. Well, it is the main event time. Literally, like, the main event we've all been waiting for so long. And I'm just saying, looking in the chats right now, I would say a majority of the people are siding with Gaethje. But for the main event, we have lightweight Khabib Nurmagomedov versus Justin Gaethje. Via BetOnline, Khabib is minus 325 and Gaethje is plus 275.
Woo!
Matt, I'm going to start with you for the main event. If you can give us your breakdown and pick, please.
Oh, this one's going to be either 5 rounds of the best mixed martial arts in the world, or it's going to be 5 rounds of me yelling, "Punch him in the head! Why are you not trying to punch him in the head?" You can see that live this Saturday on Combat Culture. This fight is so hard for me because if this was Tony Ferguson and Khabib, this would be a completely different conversation because these two, it's like Sam and Diane. It's like Ross and Rachel. It's the will they won't they romance of mixed martial arts, and I just want to see them fight, damn it. And when it comes to Gaethje, Gaethje is a freakish individual. He's a nightmare in a human form, but he's also kind of a proto-Conor. He's going to go for the attack. He's going to try to keep the fight standing. He's going to try to stuff the takedowns. We saw it in the fight against Ferguson, but is Khabib going to really fall for the trap? We know that Khabib's gone under significant personal loss with the loss of his father earlier this year due to, I believe, the COVID-19 pandemic. Training has been off kilter. He was supposed to fight Tony Ferguson before the pandemic for the 87th time. This fight is hard for me because you can't count Justin Gaethje out. You just can't. Like, legally. It is illegal for you to count Justin Gaethje out because of his performance against Tony Ferguson, against anything he's done professionally. For Nurmagomedov, it's how much better has he gotten in a year? Because it's been almost exactly a year since he's fought last, when he fought Dustin Poirier in the UAE, and he put on another masterful performance. It's hard predicting a Khabib fight because of who Nurmagomedov is, the little we know about him as a person. Like, he is very just straight to the point, send me location. And I'm hedging towards the underdog. I'm hedging a little bit because Justin Gaethje is a wild card of a human being, and we don't know what he's going to bring to the table. And we don't know what kind of state of mind Khabib's going to be in on Saturday. But
I think Khabib's going to be in great mindset. I think he's prepared and ready for this. He's a smart fighter. I think, I don't know. It is a tough fight.
Look at the press heading into this, and he's been they keep going back to the Conor thing, and I think that's getting on his nerves. And I really, if he's looking at the fight in front of him, then yeah. But I think the constant question of Conor, I think he's going to try to make a statement in this fight, and I don't know if it's going to be the one he wants to make. But I think that's still in the back of his mind because he wants to shut everybody up. And he also keeps talking about retirement. If you're at the top of your game and all you talk about is, I'm going to retire at 30 wins, I'm going to retire, I might retire after this fight. When you're that level of cagey about your future, I don't know. I don't know. It's easy to predict Khabib because he's Khabib, but you got to look at the other side, and sometimes I've got to be a contrarian because that's what I'm paid to do. I'm paid to give an opinion. So if you're looking to turn this into a big night for you, I would go with Gaethje, but the smart money is the smart money for a reason.
I don't know. I just have a good feeling about Khabib because he wants to fight the best. That's why I don't think he's worried about people talking to Conor. I know he's over their crap about constantly talking about Conor. And if you saw his interview with Stephen A. Smith, I don't know if you saw it, but Stephen A. Smith kept asking him about Conor McGregor, and on air he literally said, I'm over this shit. He wants to fight the best because he knows he's the best. So I don't think he's going to come into this fight with anything in his mind. He's ready to win. But Dave, I'm going to go to you if I can get your breakdown for the main event.
Oh, boy. I will not fade in Khabib against Justin Gaethje. Not a chance. Look, Gaethje's here looking to unify this lightweight title. He beat Tony Ferguson earlier this year. Incredible. But I want to make it clear before I get into any of this breakdown. Justin Gaethje is not going to defeat Khabib unless, we get one of them crazy, wild knockouts. He's got one hope and he's got one shot. And
that's what I'm hedging my entire prediction on, by the way.
No, and I don't blame you because odds are a big thing. And trust me, seeing a guy with that many knockouts, with that price tag next to him, is very tempting. It is very tempting. We need to praise Justin Gaethje. The way he beat on Tony Ferguson was something that we had never saw before. Now, with that said, is that the prime Tony Ferguson of his career? I don't think so. What's Ferg now, like 38? I think Gaethje caught Ferguson at the right place and the right time. And in hindsight, I think, lucky for Tony, he didn't fight Khabib. Because, in my opinion, it would have ended a lot sooner and a lot more violent. I'm not sure why people seem to think that Khabib's striking is so bad. He dropped Conor he feinted the shot and then followed with an overhand the eagle punch. He followed with the eagle punch. That's what it's called now. And Conor's one of the highest level strikers in this business. Whether you like him or not, you cannot take that away from Conor. It's probably Khabib's least favorite attack, but the amount of people attacking Khabib's striking is ridiculous. The guy is 28-0. No, have you seen the strikers that he's faced? Like the high level strikers that he's faced, and just wipe the floor with them because they cannot contain the wrestling. Justin Gaethje is such a high level wrestler. He's wrestling around. No, Khabib's gonna come out there. He's gonna grab him. He's going to take him down, and he's going to start smashing on his face on the ground. And that's facts. That's what's going to happen. That is going to happen. And if that don't happen, Khabib will knock him out on the feet. I'm not high on Justin Gaethje like everyone else is. Look at who Justin Gaethje has just defeated. Let's keep it real right now. Donald Cerrone, washed up. Edson Barboza is not even in the top 10 anymore. James Vick, not hired by the UFC. The last time that Justin Gaethje fought a young, strong, high-level fighter was Dustin Poirier, and he got knocked out. Before that was Eddie Alvarez, and he got knocked out. Sorry, Justin Gaethje is a poor man's Conor McGregor, in my opinion. He's going to come in here, he's going to have the exact same game plan as Conor McGregor, and he's going to lose, probably in a worse way than Conor. I see Gaethje getting took out in the first 2 rounds. I'm not seeing what everyone else is seeing. I'm not high on Gaethje whatsoever. I think he's got incredible hand power. His hand power is something special. We cannot deny that. Knockout. When he wins, knockout. Obviously, he has the power. And as mentioned, that's his chance of winning this fight. He can knock Khabib out. That is if he can knock Khabib out, that will be his only path. That's the only path. He needs to be looking for that the entire fight. But is he going to do that? Because after the Eddie Alvarez and Dustin Poirier loss, we watched him, you know, embrace the calmness rather than coming out going wild because he has a questionable gas tank. There's another thing. When are we seeing Gaethje's gas tank? It wasn't tested against Ferguson because there was no grappling involved. It wasn't tested against Cerrone, Barboza, Vic, because they ended in the first round. We haven't seen Gaethje in a war. Tony Ferguson didn't give him a war. Gaethje gave Ferguson the war. But Ferguson's reaching his 40s. He's been in fights with the most incredible mixed martial artists on the planet. Gaethje gets him at the back end of his career, and okay, he got the win in a nice fashion. Donald Cerrone is washed. Sorry, guys. Barboza is washed. James Vick is washed. So how can I look at Justin Gaethje's most recent wins and say, this guy's incredible, I think he's going to knock Khabib out? I can't say that because I don't think that's going to happen. And Khabib inside the distance, I gave out at plus 105, plus money on Khabib to win a fight inside the distance. Please. I'm not going to pretend, sit here like Khabib's going to have any other game plan than to wrestle, because we know that's what he's going to do. He's going to wrestle. But who has been able to stop that? No one. Why? What has Justin Gaethje shown me that he's going to be able to stop that? He hasn't fought no high-level wrestler who's came into a fight and been looking to grapple in the way that Khabib will. Gaethje has the wrestling background, but we haven't seen him utilize this skill set at all, whatever. So even if Gaethje comes out and he is, you know, the most incredible wrestler we've ever seen, picks Khabib up, drops him on his head, there's still no evidence or proof of that. So why am I going to bet that? I'm not going to bet that, am I? Look, one glance at the knockout record of Justin Gaethje is enough to scare anyone away. But that is the best chance for him. The best opportune moment for Gaethje to walk away with that title is to knock out Khabib, and I just don't think he's going to do that. Is he going to connect flush with a Dagestani? No, he's not. The bookmakers' odds, I thought, would be higher. I'll be putting 500, 600 on Khabib. I'm not even being funny. We haven't seen Khabib, as Matt mentioned, you know, since the passing of his father. That's sad, but I don't think, you know, Abdul was not winning the fights for Khabib. Abdul is not Khabib. Khabib is his own man, and Khabib is going to come in this weekend. And with, as mentioned, everyone's pissing him off, talking about Conor, doing this and that. I mean, journalism, MMA journalism is starting to really annoy me. I wish the pandemic weren't here. I want to put a suit on, go out there and show these muppets how you should talk to fighters, because it's just disrespectful. Why are you talking about Conor? We don't need to hear about Conor, do we? No, we don't. It's Khabib's time. Khabib is going to walk out 29-0 this weekend, and that's it.
I have a real quick question, though. So Gaethje has not lost by submission yet. Do you think Khabib can submit Gaethje?
Yeah, of course he can. Yeah, of course he can. You get that neck caught on the ground. The thing is, people that haven't been caught by a submission just haven't been caught. It's just that simple. And then let's look at go look at Gaethje's record. How many people has he fought with a high-level jiu-jitsu, or anyone that even, you know, really attempts a lot of submissions other than Tony Ferguson? Not many. And these guys, they're not grapplers per se. So, like, yeah, you know, Cerrone's got good jiu-jitsu, Ferguson's got good jiu-jitsu, but they're not really grapplers. They don't come out and they're not going to start shooting and stuff. So that's whatever. Gaethje hasn't fought anybody that, you know, is gonna put that on him. But Khabib will look for the choke. If the ground and pound doesn't work for Khabib, he is going to look for a neck in an exact same fashion as Conor. He's not even going to need to lock it in fully. If he can just get a chin and pull. The strength of Khabib, he is a lightweight Daniel Cormier. All you have to do is listen to his gym partners. All you have to do is listen to DC talk about him. And DC talk about how incredible his strength is. And how it's like, when you wrestle with Khabib and he's a lightweight, it is literally like wrestling with a light heavyweight or a heavyweight, because his core power, he has something special. And I think what Khabib has is special is his core strength. He's got a core strength there that is just, it's unstoppable. No one can stop it. It doesn't matter how much training you've done or how much wrestling background you've got. Everyone fails to the Khabib takedown, and I've been shown nothing else to prove otherwise. So why am I just going to take a shot on the dog this week? I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go where the smart money is. Mm-hmm. Smart money is on Khabib. And that's it for me. I'm going to show up because I love Khabib, as you
Yep,
can
I'm
tell.
with you with Khabib. Well, if you guys do want to get in on the main event, again, via Bet Online, Khabib is minus 325 and Gaethje is plus 275. Well, that's all we have for the entire main card breakdown for UFC 254 that's going to take place this weekend, October 24th. And yes, the main event will be 5 rounds. So if you are not following the guys on Twitter, I highly recommend, because they're always updating their feed with their picks. You can give Dave a follow at @dmanion_, and you can follow Matt at MRyan Consulting. You can also follow SBR at SBR Sports Picks. And also, if you would like more UFC breakdowns and picks for the whole fight card for this weekend, go to sbrpicks.com/UFC, or just click the link in the description below, and you'll also find Dave's articles in that link as well. So, again, thank you guys so much for joining me today and dropping some knowledge. I wish you all the best of luck on all of your bets, and we'll see who comes out on top this weekend. I'll see you next week.